Top 5 things I might have been wrong about. Takes a big man to admit when he's wrong. I'm a big man, so I'm going to admit when I'm wrong.
Well, that A&M Baylor national championship game's definitely not looking good
that's
right
going to
now,
haunt me
Paul.
forever. Putting LSU in the college football playoff too. No.
Okay. All right.
Number 5, Emory Jones. Through 2 games in Cincinnati, it looks like Scott Satterfield is the coach who can match him. And maybe I should have given him a hall pass for what a disaster Arizona State was when he walked into it. I just know that, my logic on it was, look, this guy's been at 2 places. It's kind of ended up the same way. But maybe at the 2 places, he wasn't being coached the right way that gets through to him. And everybody kind of has the perfect coach for them. And maybe Scott Satterfield is for Emory Jones. I know it's early, but he's played really well for them and looks good and doesn't look like the guy who was an absolute turnover waiting to happen at the previous 2 stops. So I admit I may have been wrong on Emory Jones.
Well, in 3 or 4 weeks, we might go, things I actually was right about the first time. No, I think that he's gotten off to a great start, obviously. They're 2-0, and I think they might be sneaky in the Big 12 this year. Just a team that I don't think enough people really knew about. And it's not even just the fact that, they've just not really been connected in many ways to the current Big 12 schools, but also they were undergoing a coaching change. So it wasn't like they were rolling in with all this momentum of Luke Fickell and the playoff and all of that. It was like, no, it's a new staff. So just everything's kind of a new thing for people to wrap their heads around. But I think I said it last week. Emory Jones, it was a couple weeks ago we were talking about Cincinnati, and I said I don't see any reason why he won't be an upgrade over Ben Bryant. And I know there's probably some risk in saying that, but I feel pretty good about that now because through 2 games he's looked way better, and they've been way better. And he looks like they might be onto something with Emory Jones there pulling the trigger.
Yeah. Number 4, Baylor will be more consistent. And based over the first 2 games of this year, I could not have been more wrong about that. They are.
No, they've been consistent in the loss column.
Yeah, but they're not like it is last year, and it's spilled over into this year. They're on this 6-game losing streak, and I can't say this enough. Usually when a team is kind of in a funk, you can point to one specific thing like, before Phil Bennett came to Baylor, they needed a different scheme on defense because what they were doing was not working. So they needed a different scheme on defense. When Phil Bennett came in, the defense got better, and overall they figured it out. Or like, oh, man, the defensive line isn't good. You got to get better defensive linemen. They can't stop the run. It is like if you go back through the 6 losses, which are, Kansas State, TCU, Air Force, I'm leaving somebody, Texas, and
Kansas State, TCU, Air Force, Texas, Texas State,
and Texas State, and now Utah.
Yeah,
every single one of those games went down differently. Yeah, every single one. So it wasn't the same. It wasn't just the run defense in one game. It wasn't just the offense in one game. It was all kind of different things. So that's a team that's inconsistent, and they just continue to do that. So I'm kind of surprised that they're not more consistent this year because that was kind of the mantra going in. Now they can fix that going down the line, but I'm kind of surprised that that's not their thing. That they're at least consistent in spite of maybe losing a game or so.
Yeah, they're all over the place, and I think that's where the frustration is. It's like, who the hell are they? Like, what team is this? What are we rooting for, or what are we following, or what are we seeing? It's very confusing how all over the map they are in just pick a performance. Because they're all going to be different. So pick one that's going to be different from this other one. And it's maddening, I think, at this point that you're in year 4, and this is still the case. And, that's the issue. Everybody likes Dave Aranda. Sure, there are some that would like somebody that's more of a rah-rah guy or something, but I don't think anybody personally dislikes him in any way. I think the majority of people want him and think that he's actually, perfect for this job. He's, the perfect guy to sit here and build something, but you have to know what you're trying to embrace, and I don't think anybody can figure out what the hell they're supposed to be embracing. Are we a good offense or no? Or is it a good defensive team? No. Are they consistently this? No. Is this guy no? And it's very confusing, and you don't know, what to really expect in any given Saturday. It's bizarre.
He is a defensive mind. I'm not making this comparison, but there have been coaches who have been hired because of what they do on offense and what they do on defense. Now, he was hired for more than that. but he was a defensive mind. In Monday's opening game against Texas State, they were, we understand, just completely a mess. But yeah, it's not like one time it's the kicking game. Although the missed field goal at the end of the first half was not time ran out, but that's going to come back. It's like an extra out in baseball. You can't just pinpoint it.
It would be like Dave Aranda would be able to coach around it. See, if you have one major issue that makes you lose games, eventually you can try and coach around it. Like, okay, you can't get, like, if you don't have a good defensive line, you can't all of a sudden
like
get
Iowa.
Yeah, like excellent. Like, you can't just all of a sudden get a good defensive line right away. Like, you're going to have to ride out the storm with who you have, and then you just figure out, okay, how can we coach around this? They can't coach around anything. Like, it's just when they try to, then another, like, okay, they got that problem solved.
And the way you're saying that, you're not, and some people would disagree, but you're not saying that they specifically aren't coaching their asses off.
No, but like, if you don't know the specific, like, what I'm saying is, it's like whack-a-mole. Like, the minute they knock one down, like another one pops up, and they're like, well, wait a minute, we just solved this one.
Yeah.
Like, now we've got another one. So that's been the problem with it. It's really weird. Number 3. Florida will be better in year 2 of Napier. I really do think Billy Napier is a really good coach, and I think he's going to be really successful. But he might have not stepped into Florida at the best time, and the roster, like the fact that he had the 3rd pick in the draft last year and they barely made a bowl game, was kind of troubling. And then this year they've downgraded at quarterback position, and they've got a bear of a schedule. And I think that there's going to be a lot of propaganda around him to get him out and move faster in a new era. And that's just going to keep Florida in this cycle of, don't like this coach, don't like this coach, don't like this coach, don't like this coach, which is, everybody between Urban Meyer and now him. It's just been this cavalcade. And they were lucky in that it was Steve Spurrier, and then like Ron Zook didn't work out, and then Urban Meyer came in and they won with Urban Meyer. I don't know what they've got to do something because it's not working out for them. And I thought they would be better, and you would see that in year 2 around everything else. But really, so far you've seen a team that's not. I mean, I know they won this past weekend against the McNeese or whoever they played, but you just see a team that's not very fast, which is really surprising for a Gators team, and especially on defense, not very fast. So I thought they would be better, and maybe they can prove me wrong down the line, but this looks like it's going to be a struggle for Billy this year.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't look like it's working very well. I would ask you this, though. How did you feel about Norvell after year 2?
I saw progress, but year 2 was also when they lost to Jack State, so I wondered if he was – like, the thing was, he was a great Monday to Friday coach, but Saturdays he wasn't great. But I saw progress. I don't know. Florida fans have to see that this year. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he won 3 games, and he won 5 games, and then they won 10 games.
Yeah.
And so, Napier's 2 games into year 2. I get it doesn't look good, but I do think, we're a bit of a ways away from the hot seat, although I know some Gators are probably circling the swamp already there because it hasn't been what you thought. I mean, he was just so red hot coming into that you just thought, like, oh, man, this is going to be fun. This is going to be like the film that we've seen of his teams, and it's going to be, and it's just, it's been kind of dysfunctional. So, they've got to get better through this year. There's going to be a lot of heat, and deservedly so.
That Jaden Rashada thing is going to sting
that
him.
Really,
it is not his fault. I
Right.
mean, because he had people that said, we got it. Don't worry about it. It's all good. We signed into a contract. And then when Jaden Rashada said, all right, well, do you want my direct deposit or what? And they're like, yeah.
I thought he wasn't supposed to know about the NIL.
He's not supposed to talk about it. They all know about it.
Right.
I mean, number 2, Miami still needs more athletes. Now, they are not as good up front as they were in their glory years. And God, how could you be? Because if you look at some of the guys who came off of those rosters, especially up front, it was just a murderous row of gigantic human beings. But Mario Cristobal has gone out and found some speed. And the offensive line is certainly a lot better than it was. The defensive line still needs some work, but that's maybe the hardest position to recruit in the entire country. But holy cow, can Miami burn again? And that was interesting to see after all these years of even like some of their teams that have been, in this mediocre run. They had some guys that were fast, but the last 3 or 4, you're like, man, this looks like Miami on on 3/4 speed, like you're trying to see who ran the red light and read the license plate. Like that's what it looked like. Now, man, Miami can boogie again, and they've got some good, really fast players. Tyler Van Dyke looks like he's recovered from last year very, very well, and they're going to be a problem for some people.
Yeah, they looked good. I knew that the A&M game was going to be a tight contest, or I figured that it would be, but I didn't expect them to win. I really did. I thought A&M was going to win that game,
Yeah.
and for Miami to not only win it, but win it pretty convincingly in doing so, right, I think is, definitely a great sign for them. I mean, it's not like Cristobal's forgotten how to coach. I mean, he was a big-time hire for them, yes, because of connections and whatnot, but also because he's pretty good at what he does, and I think that you've got to give guys time, and, it's It did feel like he had coached maybe like a couple games, and it was already like, is this going to work? You know what I mean? We're like that with coaches, but they're settling in nicely. He's getting some superb athletes, like you said. Obviously, just in that region, he's got, throw a rock and you can hit like a superstar athlete. But with their brand, they can stretch even farther. And there's some good things going on for them right now that they can take advantage of.
Yep, absolutely. And number 1, Colorado would have a few growing pains. I have not seen those yet. So far, no growing pains. Now, look, they have not played Caleb Williams and Bo Nix yet, and that's coming. So those guys will give anybody growing pains, you would think. But they've certainly made it way more interesting. So I thought, yes, Colorado's definitely going to be better because they're going to have better players on the roster, but there's time to build chemistry and all these things. And so far, those things have proven not to be true. They look like a team that has tremendous chemistry and can do a lot of things. Now, they have not, and no disrespect to TCU, but they have not played the toughest teams on their schedule yet, and that's what we'll learn even more about them. But right now, if you told me that they took Oregon and USC down to the wire and maybe even won one of those games, it would not shock me at all, given the way that offense moves.
Yeah, I think they need to prove they can run the ball probably more consistently because they're doing a lot of throwing it around, but I'm not trying to nitpick here. I guess I am nitpicking of defensively, have they been fully tested by a great offense? Like you're referring to. I do think they probably need to improve a bit of Shador getting sacked. He's gotten sacked quite. I mean, Nebraska put 8 on him the last weekend.
They did get to him,
and I think there were a few in that first week as well. So, but I mean, like I'm nitpicking. They look really good. They look really dangerous, and if you're scoring like they're scoring, and you're capable of hitting on a big play at a moment's notice anytime offensively with all the weapons that they have, then you're going to be in most games, and they're only going to keep getting better in my estimation. So yeah, 2 games in, and it's been not surprising for some who just believed right away, just like blindly, just like, yep, we believe Deion's going to get it together. But yeah, a lot of people I think are very surprised, myself included, of just how quickly they've hit the ground running.
All right, thank you, Paul. Couple of